Hey friends, happy Sunday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I am Taylor. I'm a stay-at-home wife and mom of two, and I share these What's for Dinner videos every Sunday to hopefully give you some new meal ideas and motivate you to cook more for your family. I usually try about 3 new recipes a week so that I don't get bored in the kitchen and also so y'all don't get bored watching these videos. So if you like these kinds of videos and you haven't already, I would love it if you subscribe down below. You can come back every Sunday, see these What's for Dinners, and also on Tuesdays I share the grocery hauls that show everything I bought for the dinners for the week, and then I usually upload something like a vlog or a bonus haul or something another day during the week. But I'm going to go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. Friday night, we had chicken rice and green beans and sliced tomatoes. If you've been following me for a while, you might remember me making something similar to this in the past very often. This is something that me and Andy ate a lot, like before we had kids and also when we first had kids, because it's super cheap and easy. So we just need a can of chicken and a box of whatever flavored rice-a-roni you like. We prefer the long grain wild rice, but that's not something that Aldi carries, so I just used like the chicken flavored rice and it turned out fine. So you're going to start off by making your rice basically according to the package directions, but you're going to add in your can of chicken as well. So you need butter and then whatever the water is that it calls for, and then you'll add in your rice and your seasoning packet, and then add in your drained chicken. And I am doing 2 boxes of rice and 2 cans of chicken, but if you're feeding less people, then just do 1 box of rice and 1 can of chicken. That's what I used to do when the kids were younger and they didn't eat as much, but now I need to make 2 boxes because we want leftovers so Andy can have leftovers for lunch the next day. So then you just like bring that to a boil, and then once it comes to a boil, you put a lid on it, reduce the heat to low, and simmer it until your rice is cooked. It's like 15 to 20 minutes usually per the box directions. And then it's like a nice filling meal. You added some chicken to your rice. You can do whatever flavor you want. As I said, you could even do like the taco style rice or whatnot. But we always like to serve this with a can of green beans on the side. Super cheap and easy. And then a sliced tomato. And it's just like one of those comfort meals basically, because it was something we ate a lot when we did not have a lot of money. Saturday is basically another like comfort meal, family favorite. We eat grilled cheese and tomato soup like all the time. Usually it's like a lunch thing now, but it's definitely good for dinner too. We're using the Progresso hearty tomato soup because that's our favorite. And then we've got this big like Pain Toronto bread from Aldi. It's great for grilled cheese. And then we had American cheese on there, and then I did turkey on mine, and the kids wanted ham on theirs, but Andy didn't want any meat on his, so he didn't. It was just like, do whatever you want. Sunday night I made this taco hash brown casserole in the crock pot. You may have seen me make this before. It's delicious and my family loves it, so I've made it a couple times now. You start off by browning your ground beef, and usually you'd want to use like some minced garlic and some onion, but I didn't feel like cutting up either one of those things. So I used some dried minced onion and a little bit of garlic powder and then some of the taco seasoning. Just browned up my ground beef. You can tell it's still partially frozen. I was not on the ball this day and I forgot to take out my meat until like close to when I needed to put this in the crock pot. So it all worked out fine, and it's still browned up because ground beef, when you freeze it flat, it cooks pretty fast even if it's still a little frozen. So now in the crock pot, we're just going to combine 1 bag of frozen hash browns with 1 can of diced rotel, and then half a cup of sour cream, 1 packet of taco seasoning, or like the rest of it, because I use some of it on the ground beef when it's cooking. And then the recipe calls for 1 10.5 ounce can of cheddar cheese soup. I've never used that. Usually I use the frozen nacho cheese that I have in the freezer. But again, I forgot to take that out of the freezer. But luckily I had some Velveeta cheese packets on hand, so I just did 2 of those in place of the can of cheese soup. And then you need some shredded cheese, and then you add in your ground beef and just give it all a good stir. Mix it together as best you can. It's a little hard to mix together, but do what you can. Spread it out evenly in the crock pot, and then it only needs to cook on low for 4 hours or on high for 2. And I did it on high for 2, and then once it's done, all you gotta do is stir it up, and you can top it with stuff if you want to. We've done like lettuce and salsa and eaten it with chips, but this night we just left it as it was, and I did add a little bit of extra pepper on my own bowl. This next recipe is a Cajun shrimp and rice, and I did an oopsie and forgot that I had made this before, and it ended up being like really spicy, and it's good, but it's like too spicy for my family. So next time I'm going to either use my own Cajun seasoning or like cut down on the spice for this one. So I'm starting off by melting a little bit of butter in my pan and cooking up my shrimp. And I have seasoned that with half of this Cajun seasoning that the recipe calls for you to make. It's 1.5 teaspoons of paprika, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of black pepper, half a teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of oregano, half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, which I think is way too much, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. And I just like wasn't thinking when I made this, but a half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper is a lot, and I think that's just why it became so spicy. But I used half of that to season up my shrimp, and then just cooked it until it was done. And then once it was done, I removed it from the pan and then added a little bit more butter to my pan along with my rice. I did 1 1/3 cup of long grain white rice, and then I added in 2 2/3 cups of chicken broth, or I did water and knorr chicken bouillon to turn it into chicken broth, and then the rest of that seasoning. And then I brought that to a boil, and once it came to a boil, I put a lid on it and reduced the heat to a simmer and let this cook for like 15 to 20 minutes until the rice was all the way done and all that liquid was absorbed. And then all you have to do is stir back in the shrimp. And then something that I added to the recipe was some Parmesan cheese to kind of give it a little bit more flavor and also help with the heat. Because it was around this point that I tasted it and realized I've made this before and it was too spicy. That is my fault. I did not make a note. I did not go back and rewatch the video. I knew I had made it, but I didn't realize it was the recipe that was too spicy. So that's my fault. Everybody still ate it, but it was very, very spicy. And we like heat. So I would definitely recommend either using a Cajun seasoning that you know you like and isn't too spicy for you, or like really cutting back on the cayenne pepper in this recipe. Next up, we had 3-packet chicken. This meal is delicious, and I have made it before. I think I made it before I made it in the crock pot, but this time I'm making it in the Instant Pot. Unfortunately, when I went to Aldi, they were out of the Italian dressing, like seasoning packet. So I was like, I bet I can find something online and make my own. So that is what I did. So in this jar, I am mixing together 2 tablespoons of dried oregano, 1 tablespoon of dried parsley, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of dried basil, a 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme, and a 1/4 teaspoon of celery salt. I'm going to link that recipe down below, but keep in mind I left out the 2 tablespoons of regular salt that they called for. I just didn't feel like it needed all of that salt with the celery salt and stuff added in. I just didn't want it to be that salty, so I left that part out, but you can definitely add that if you want to. Now, to my crock pot, I have my chicken. You could do chicken breast, but I chose to do chicken thighs, and I seasoned them all over with some onion powder and garlic powder and salt and pepper. And then I added in 1 cup of water and 1 teaspoon of Knorr chicken bouillon to make that into chicken broth. And then I added on my 3 packets. It's going to be a ranch seasoning packet, the Italian seasoning packet, and then a gravy seasoning packet. And you could do chicken, but my Aldi was out of chicken, chicken, so I did turkey. And then for the Italian, I just did 2 tablespoons of that seasoning mix. And then I think about 2 tablespoons left, so I can use it again when I need another Italian dressing seasoning packet. Then I put the Instant Pot lid on this, set it to sealing, and cook this on manual high pressure for 10 minutes, and then let it do a natural release once it was done. Then you can go in and shred up your chicken. I wanted the gravy to be a little bit thicker, so I added in a little bit of cornstarch that I mixed with water to make a little cornstarch slurry, and that thickened up the gravy nicely. And then we just serve this on top of some mashed potatoes. I said before, I have made this before, and it's delicious over mashed potatoes, over rice, and over noodles. We love it. Next up, I made a pinto bean soup. I have never made a pinto bean soup, but I saw it on Pinterest and it looked delicious. I kind of combined some things from a couple different recipes, so I will have what I did listed out down below for you guys, as well as all the links to all the other recipes. So I'm starting off with some bacon here. I chose to do a whole pound of bacon. Some recipes only have you use a couple slices. You can also use ham and other kinds of meat, but I used 1 pound of bacon and I sliced it up into little bite-sized pieces and just cooked that up until it was mostly crispy. And then once it was pretty much done, I added in 1 diced onion and 1 diced carrot and let that cook for a couple of minutes. Then I added in some salt, pepper, oregano, thyme, garlic powder, chili powder, and the Trader Joe's Umami Seasoning, and then a 1/4 cup of tomato sauce. Gave that a good stir, and then I slowly started adding in my water. I did it just a little bit at a time so I could scrape up those bits from the bottom and kind of deglaze the pan and just get all those good yummy bits off the bottom. I ended up adding about 7 cups of water here, and then I do add more while this continues to cook. I'm pretty sure total I ended up adding about 10 cups of water throughout the cooking process. It's just going to depend on how liquidy you want your soup. Do you want it really thick and beany, or do you want it to have more of a broth? Just whatever you want to do. So then I added in my beans. This is 2 cups of pinto beans that I soaked overnight and then drained and rinsed them and added them into here. And then I added in a little bit of the Knorr chicken bouillon to give the broth a little bit more flavor. And then I let this simmer over a medium-low heat for 3 hours until my beans were tender and it had gotten to the consistency that I want. And I felt like really cooking it all day like that. I mean, it's not all day, but for a couple hours, it was a very long cook. It just turned out so flavorful and delicious. We loved this. I'm pretty sure everyone loved it. I know the kids and I loved it. I didn't really ask Andy, but I know he ate a bowl full of it and I didn't hear any complaints. So I think we all enjoyed this. It's not something that I've ever had. I know it's a very southern thing and I'm from Georgia, but I'm from Metro Atlanta and I just did not grow up eating things like pintos and cornbread. But that's what I made to go on the side of this. We topped the pinto bean soup with a little bit of cheddar cheese, and it was delicious. And finally, the last meal of the week, we did some barbecue pulled pork sandwiches. It's something that I love to throw in the crock pot because it's super easy. So I've got a pork loin here, and I'm seasoning it all over with some barbecue seasoning from Trader Joe's. And then I added on some barbecue sauce. This is the Lily's Carolina barbecue sauce, and it is pretty good. We like it a lot. I used it for the first time when we were camping, and so I was trying to use up some more of that bottle. And I just put that in there and then put a lid on it and let it cook on low for I think I did 10 hours. I started this early in the day. And then at the end, you can just shred it up. Top your sandwich with some more barbecue sauce if you want. The kids like to do cheddar cheese and put it on a bun, and then we had some baked beans on the side and your choice of chips. I think Elijah had Cheez-It Puffs, and then the rest of us had some Doritos. And this is always an easy and delicious dinner. And that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope y'all got some new meal ideas. We tried some delicious things and shared some things that we had made before. So I hope that helped you out and get some meal ideas for your meal planning for the week. Let me know if you plan on trying any of the recipes in the comments down below, and make sure you leave me a smiley face emoji down there as well to let me know you made it here all the way to the end. I hope y'all have a great rest of your weekend and a great week, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.